All right, you are now tuned in to the Rotated Views podcast. I am your host, Jimmy Lee Velez. I'm here with Goose,
What up?
Heck,
Yep.
and Gabe. That's right, folks, the unknown. In this episode, the crew talks about their experiences with dealing with the unknown. We cover topics that range from the overall confidence we have, uncertainty, stress, planning, and much more. We wrap the episode up with quotes from Aldous Huxley and Tom Hanks.
Whoop.
If you're new, thank you for joining us, guys. Don't forget to download and subscribe. We drop a new episode every Tuesday morning for your listening pleasure. With that being said, we kick things off with a definition from dictionary.com, and we will be defining unknown. They define it as not known, not within the range of one's knowledge, experience, or understanding. Strange, unfamiliar, not discovered, explored, identified, or ascertained. Wow.
All of that.
That's a lot of
You
unknowns.
are out of breath unknownly.
Seriously. All right, so I grabbed an article from Tiny Buddha, and they titled it 7 Ways to Deal with Uncertainty So You Can Help. 7 ways to deal with uncertainty so you can be happier and less anxious. Number 1, replace expectations with plans. Number 2, prepare for different possibilities. Number 3, become a feeling observer. Number 4, get confident about your coping and adapting skills. Number 5, utilize stress reduction techniques preemptively. Number 6, focus on what you can control. And number 7, practice mindfulness. All right. So I guess number 1 is probably like one of the, I guess, not cliche, but it's definitely one of the ones that we always hear, practice or preparedness, the 3 Ps. That can
2.
definitely lead to a reduction in stress, obviously. But let's see what they say. So it says, when you form expectations, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. You can guide your tomorrow, but you can't control the exact outcome. If you expect the worst, you'll probably feel too negative and close-minded to notice and seize opportunities. If you expect the best, you'll create a vision that's hard to live up to. Instead of expecting the future to give you something specific, focus on what you'll do to create what you want to experience.
Wow.
Nice.
That reminded me of Rob Dyrdek. He says one of his quotes is "Make your own luck." I don't know if it's his original quote, but he has it on T-shirts, like his brand DC. He has it, make your own luck everywhere, and it's true. I mean, they're playing both sides of the coin on that one, but yeah, there's kind of going back to what we were saying last week with finding the balance or whatever. But it's true. Sometimes we had a guy come in. He was part of this Matthew Kelly Dream Manager thing, and they're basically promoting on goal setting and all this other stuff. And the one thing that drives me nuts is, now mind you, I was already in the personal development industry probably for about 5 years at this time. So I have versed in this kind of talks where some people use trickery, or they try to use like ignorance, or I don't know what it is. A lot of people aren't into personal development. So when you're first hit with personal development, you don't realize it until like you take a step back and you watch them do it. A lot of their stuff is just fluff. It's just crap, right? So I watch this guy like try to tell you can put whatever you want on your list. You can write whatever, dream big, dream huge, do this. That is one of them. I now realize it's one of the most obnoxious things you can say. It's like, yes, I believe that you should dream big, but you also there also it's almost like going back to the law of attraction, where people's like you become what you think about, and now you have people literally meditating in rooms trying to manifest $1 million. It makes no sense. I mean, you're missing half of the equation. So yes, it's dream big, but dream big for you, not dream big of what. The problem is when someone says dream big, they think what the world is throwing at them is also their dream. So a multi-million-dollar house with 7 garages and 7 cars, like that fake, like weird thing, whatever that is, that's what immediately I'm gonna say like 90% of people are like, yeah, I want this, I want a beach house, I want this, I want that. It's like, dude, you went to straight materialistic. That's not what that's the missing thing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But you don't really realize that because most people, that's the first time they ever heard someone tell them dream big. So it's good because you need some level of exposure.
At the same time, that you can easily quantify materialistic items, unfortunately. That's the biggest thing. You can't, I want happiness. Like, you can't quantify that, unfortunately.
Yeah. But this guy, and I know he was just trying to sell the product or whatever, but it just, I don't know. It was just like, stop the BS, dude. Like, come on. So I raised I asked a question. Can I have a question? He's like, yeah, go ahead. So I hit him with so what's too big? Like, what dream is too big? Yeah. To the point where now I overwhelmed myself thinking, I give this example and it's so annoying, but like if I said, for my business to earn $1 million by tomorrow, and people are like, oh, well, there you go. It's exaggerated. I'm like, well, isn't what this guy's saying exaggerated? Yeah, exactly. Because people then do stuff and say stuff like that. And the issue is now you have an expectation for this high, but in reality, are you going to back it up? If this is the first time you're actually goal setting and dream building, you should, live, like, have that in the back of your mind, like, I'll get there. But the biggest, like, suggestion is do something little first. Like, manifest something smaller first and don't overwhelm yourself. See that it is possible. You know what I'm saying? Where these guys are like, oh, yeah, I want, I want to go on vacation for 6 months out of a year and work for 6 months out of a year. This year. Yeah. You're like, yeah, dude, that's called quitting your job, not working, and then finding a job 6 months later. Yeah, you can do it, but what's the realness to that? You know what I mean? Exactly. What's the reality? What's the repercussions to that?
And I guess that type of stuff like pulls people in the door just because it boils that type of stuff to make plans of how you're actually going to do that.
Right. That's my thing. Just throwing it out there and looking at it every single day. And yeah, that's fine, Danny. Guys, listen, I wrote my goals out every single day for over a year straight and hit none of them. Yeah. Because I didn't believe it. I literally thought it was unattainable. Even though I set them and I wrote them out every single day. I probably still have them out here somewhere. I have stacks and stacks of paper. I literally wrote out my goals every single day and repeated them and hit none of them. Because they were the most exaggerated things, and I did not believe them.
Because that's the other end of the coin, is being realistic with your goals.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So when I say what's too big, that's what I'm saying. What's realistic? He didn't have an answer. He's like, I don't know. He's like, that's a person-to-person thing, and it's such a classic, answer from like a con man.
So basically, he's telling you to believe in yourself of these big dreams when he knows.
And then he's also playing the card like no one can tell you what you're not capable of. So he wins. His conversation will always win.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Okay, so kind of building off that, number 2 says prepare for different possibilities. The most difficult part of uncertainty is the inability to plan and feel in control. Yeah, that's a basic. I think that is the point of, a lot of times people get anxious and have anxiety because they don't feel that they can control a certain situation or certain situations, and it just gets them anxious. Like, because now your mind is polluted with all the what ifs.
Yeah, right.
Okay, well, what if this happens? What if I lose my job? Then I'll lose my house. And then you went from one thing, calling out sick one day, to then all of a sudden you're homeless and everything went to hell.
Collecting unemployment or
you're home alone.
But your thoughts.
Yeah.
That's the power of your mind, though.
Sure.
The power of your mind is the same one that can give you the ability to start a multi-million-dollar business and attain your wildest dreams. But at the same time, it's the same one that could drive you crazy and literally to the borderline insanity and cause stomach issues, relationship issues, money, financial issues, spiritual issues, right? Education, all this stuff. That's how powerful the mind is. I don't know who said it, but someone said, you could see the power of the mind when you walk into a psychiatric ward. Because, people are doing or seeing things that aren't even necessarily there, but their mind is telling them that they are. Right? It's like this altered, conscious state or whatever. But preparing for different possibilities, that's the same as just being open to,
Sure.
Be open to it not working out perfectly, as we
Sure.
say, and things not going according to plan.
Sure.
Because that's always the case.
Or the cliched version is like expect the unexpected.
Right. I don't think unless you're like a professional at it, or you got lucky, or you're really good with your finances. When you ever hear someone saying, like, when doing like a renovation to their house, anyone stayed on their budget before?
Never. Unless you're that good, like you said. Unless you're good with money. Yeah.
Right. But it's rare. Like, I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's very rare, because it's a hard thing to do, because unexpected. I guess the meaning of me bringing that up is like the unexpected will happen.
Right.
You'll open up the walls and there's stuff there. There's mold that you didn't prepare for.
Right.
So, you being prepared for different possibilities. That's why when you see these shows on HGTV, they have a pocket of about 10 grand in these renovations for cushion in case something happens, in case they, a pipe breaks or whatever.
You have to go deeper into whatever.
Exactly. Number 3, become a feeling observer. It isn't like uncertainty that bothers me. It's the tendency to get lost in my feelings about it. So it's basically allowing yourself to go through the emotions and kind of see yourself go through it, but don't allow it to don't make decisions off that just yet. Mm-hmm. Kind of observe it, feel it. I'm like, okay. And then you can kind of step back and make a better decision. I think that's what that's saying.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Be an observer, a feeling observer.
Yeah, it's a weird phrase. I was thinking like you can observe the roller coaster, but don't jump on the roller coaster that you're gonna ride the emotions up and down.
That's true. And then you can also kind of play out scenarios in your head and see how you feel.
Sure.
Well, if this happened, how would that?
I guess that goes with like having feedback and all stuff too. Is like you can kind of bounce those ideas and kind of see how you feel about certain situations.
That's true. And you know what's funny about that? I don't think that's one of them, and I think that's a huge point. Consultation.
Sure.
Consulting with someone who's already been there.
Yeah.
Or gone through what you've gone through.
Actually, that's what I was thinking of. Was experience. Like you said, you don't you won't know exactly like how much to prepare for unless you have that kind of exactly what you're preparing for, but that comes with experience too. Like if you've done that so many times, you can kind of get an idea of what the extra leeway might be.
Gotcha. And you build off that.
Yes.
Got it. Number 4, get confident about your coping and adapting skills. This isn't the same as expect the worst. It's more about assuring yourself that you can handle any difficulty that might come. So it's kind of, piggybacking off number 3. But it adds in a very interesting word, confident. A lot of unknown, or a lot of things that we think will happen, is because we're either not confident in ourselves or in our abilities.
Sure.
Or obviously it's the clear uncertainty. We just don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how you're going to perform. For example, if I never gave a speech in front of 1,000 people, and I'm going to tomorrow, I've scheduled a speech in front of 1,000 people on stage, I don't know. But if I'm confident in my ability, right? Because the unknown is that I never experienced that in my life.
Sure.
But I can put confidence in myself, knowing that I know what I'm going to talk about. I should be confident who I am. I'm going to be confident in my message, and I'm definitely going to, have a positive impact on these people. And if I can just, who cares what the result actually is, because my intentions are this, you can be okay with that, and you can still be okay with the unknown.
Because that at least counterbalances the anxiety that comes with that, I guess.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But there's a confidence in your own game. Even if, like, I can't be confident in front of me standing in front of 10,000 or 1,000 people, because I never did it. How am I confident in something I never did? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But I'm confident in my game. It's like Goose is a barber, and at this point he's cutting a few celebrity hair, whatever, and then he's going to like another WrestleMania and he's exposing himself. Is there the unknown? Is there uncertainty there? Of course, I don't know. You can speak on it, but like, you don't know. Like, you didn't experience, but he's confident in his skills enough to then execute this.
Because at least you maybe, like, if you haven't done 1,000 people, but you at least you've done public speaking before, so you at least know how you can do that.
Yeah,
Right.
once you get to a certain point, it's the same thing.
Sure.
Like if you're speaking in front of 100 people or 100,000 people,
Yeah.
it starts to become the same like thing. You have the confidence. If you could do it in a decent sized crowd, of course you could do anything bigger than that.
Sure, absolutely.
So it's just same thing. Like me cutting hair. If I can cut like anyone's hair, the janitor of a school, I can cut like any kind of celebrity. So it's just I'm doing the same thing. It takes the same techniques on what I'm doing. It's just because the physical person's somewhat of a different importance doesn't mean I'm gonna perform differently. It should
Right.
all be done the same way.
Yeah. And kind of going back to what you were saying before too, with experience. Like now like there's some stuff that you didn't bring with you on the last trip. Like, dang, I should have brought that. So this time I'm definitely bringing my phone charger. Just something as basic as that, whatever.
Absolutely.
Like that's just
You're
learning.
learning through experience. Yeah.
Right. And there's something to be said about being uncomfortable. So I heard one time someone said, like, if you have that nervous little feeling in your stomach and you're uncomfortable, they're saying, one of their comments was, dude, you're alive. Because if nothing makes you nervous and nothing, like people always say, oh, I'm fearless. That's a lie. I get the fun aspect in saying something like that and being like a quote bad boy or whatever, but you're dead inside or you're not challenging yourself.
Sure.
Because the challenges come with that anxiety, like, but you can be fearless in the approach. So I get that, but some people are taking like nothing scares me. You know what I'm saying? And that's a lie. Like I said, you're either
that's
emotionally built up so much wall that it can't get there, or you're not even challenging yourself. You're doing something that what the result is.
The other half of that, like you just saying that just to like,
I think that's
psych yourself up.
Yeah, I think that's being scared.
Okay.
To say that you're scared, to say that you're fearless, I think is being scared.
You're trying to convince someone that you're not
You know
scared.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I might be totally wrong, but I feel that sometimes when I'm my most confident I'm my most scared. You ever like about to fight or something like that, and you're like shaking, but you're about to like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you're about to throw down, but like, you're confident in yourself, but there's some fear in that. There's some weird like you're scared, you're nervous because you don't know what the heck's going to happen because anything can happen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's like something about it, but at that same time, when you go when you go through that fear, there's like this ball of ice that breaks and shatters or whatever. That is when you step to the next. It's like beating levels, like a video game. Like you beat, level 1 or whatever level you're at that point. Level 32. Now you're going to level 33. With most of the stuff that took me to the next level in life was me almost laughing at myself, like, dude, just do it. And I was total, because when I find myself totally scared of something, not scared as in like quivering, but like scared, I'm like, I don't know if this is the right thing I should do. Like, there's a lot of stuff, like just, I don't think I can do it, but I do think I can do it. And every time I step forward into that, I grew like exponentially.
Yeah.
And I took my life to the next level.
Like you sit back and be like, damn, I'm glad I did that instead of falling back and
just
letting
being
it go.
scared.
Yeah.
Like there's times that I talk myself out of stuff. It goes back to the times that all of us talked ourselves out of something. And now that little thing that you never did, it just sits in the back of your mind. And I tell myself all the time, I'm like, I'm not letting that stuff eat at my brain to the grave. I'm not doing that. Like, either just don't think about it anymore and make that decision. Okay. But if something keeps eating at, dang, dude, I wish I would have did X, Y, and Z. Or I wish I would have got, whatever, something that you always wanted, but you never did or go somewhere that you always wanted. I always wanted to visit, whatever, Hawaii or I don't know, Bristol Borough.
That's neat.
I don't know, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Because that has the opposite effect of eating away at your confidence as opposed to building up when you're proving to yourself that you can do something.
Exactly. Number 5, utilize stress reduction techniques preemptively. If you're dealing with uncertainty, you probably have stress in your body, even if it's not the forefront of your thoughts in this exact moment. Over time, the body stress affects blood pressure, blood sugar, muscle tension, cholesterol level, breathing rate, and every organ in your body. Incorporate stress reduction techniques into your day, ideally meditation, even if just for 5 to 10 minutes daily. Finding your center will help you feel better prepared to tackle whatever comes your way. I mean, this is since the beginning of man kind of thing.
Sure.
No-brainer.
It's kind of, yeah. You have religions that say prayer. You have people that say meditation. You have, it's really taking a step back, reflecting, thanking, asking, just a bunch of stuff. However you take meditation, and then you have the old school prayers, meditation, prayers, prayer, meditation. To be honest with you, I think that's an individual to find out for themselves and let it be whatever it is. That's on you. But it's very important. And there's a reason why it's so powerful in religions. There's a reason why, even if people aren't in a religion, they meditate.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, obviously it works.
Yeah.
Obviously there's something to it. But I don't know if this is for. I just think it's like one of those things. We should all be doing it. Beyond that,
Sure.
that's on you. How you do it, when you do it, what you're doing when you're doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's an individual thing, just like a diet. Like, there's not a one pill that's going to fix every single person. Just like learning. You learn different than you learn. You learn different than I learn. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why, like, the greatest, pieces of advice is know yourself. Sure. Know how you operate, and then you can approach life. You can't be approaching life. The problem is we're backwards. We're approaching life and letting things all smack us in the face, and we don't even know who we are, right? How many situations right now that we can go back 10 years ago, and all of us in our 20s, right, and say, dang, I would have did this different, right? Because now you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's based off of that reflection and thinking. So then moving forward, that same thing happens. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not gonna get played again.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, whether that's finances, whether that's relationships, whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, you're learning from that. And if you keep running into that same problem, you didn't learn your lesson.
Exactly.
And life just keeps on smacking you up inside your head.
Because you're just bound to repeat the same thing over and over.
Right. Exactly. You're not changing your thought process. Like, you ever see like somebody who people find this to be like, oh, it's because, like, the easiest example is like wealth. Like, this kid is wealthy. Oh, he's wealthy and he manages money as well because his dad does. Or this kid's broke and is gonna, go for unemployment because his parents really always like milking off the government. But the same is true. That's like a very obvious answer or like observation, but the same is true with like eating. Like, if your parents are like overeaters, you're gonna be an overeater. If your parents are like had some other eating disorder, more than likely you're probably gonna pick up on that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not just finances, it's in everything. Same thing was like, oh, your dad was, let's just say an abuser verbally. More than likely that all that stuff's just sitting on the back of your mind. That's how. So you have to, at one point, if you don't like it or if you don't even recognize it, like, you have to change there. That's where it has to change. That's where the buck stops here, kind of thing. Because you can't also be the same person that complains about it.
Sure, exactly. But yeah, you can't blame it on like, oh, this is how I grew up or how whatever it is, and
you can't
acknowledge that there's a problem there and not take steps to actually change it.
Right, exactly. That's where it's at, because people are like, oh, it's in my blood to be that. Oh, I never change. Oh, whatever they say,
That's
whatever
just
they
I'm set in my ways and type of
I'm just stuck in my
the
ways.
past.
Yeah. But you have to. It's kind of as the way you said it was perfectly, acknowledge it, but that doesn't mean you have to accept it.
Yes, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, all right, dang, I didn't realize it was going like that. But okay, so this is what it is. I'm doing this because of the, and not all the time just blaming, like your parents are blaming, whatever thing it is that you dislike or you don't feel you should be, continuing moving forward. That is when the acknowledgement comes, and then the change also has to come. But I also believe that's when people change.
Sure.
Because you have to have the mental maturity to recognize that.
Yes, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Realization of whatever.
Yeah. Or the same thing goes for, scratch everything I just said, but the same thing goes for if your life experiences. If here's another one. If you stink at paying your bills on time, right? What have you done in the last year to then avoid that? But then you keep banging up your dang bank accounts You know what I mean? Because you didn't learn it. That's a perfect little tiny example, because most people bang up their bank accounts like when they first, unless they didn't have like real crazy good guidance. But I feel like you have to mess up in that manner to understand and respect it later on down the road when your bank gets a little bit bigger.
Exactly. When you get all these like extra fees and all stuff, then you realize, oh, let me send a reminder. It's just like,
yeah, I remember I jacked my thing up. Luckily, I had like a student account.
yeah.
I didn't realize what I was doing. There was like a minimum on my account or whatever, and I just kept going below the minimum, and then they'll charge me like another $10.
Yeah.
But
oh my
with a
God,
student
it's so
account,
obnoxious, yeah.
with a student account, there's no fees.
Yeah.
But they're showing me, and there's like, we're doing this so you learn.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? That was like when me and my wife got our new alarm system for the house. They give you 3 days to try it out. Not to try it out, to get used to it, really. And
acclimated to it.
Yeah, to get out, because it's new, it's different.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's a change.
It's outside of your routine.
Yes, exactly. Do you not believe the first day my wife tripped the alarm and
The cops came.
yes, they sent dispatchers out. The first day.
That was
First day
actually
went
live.
active.
Yeah.
First day went active.
I got an email at 11 o'clock says, you are now active, Mr. Velez. Simply
11:01.
Yeah. 11:01. Kel's like, ding.
11 o'clock and 58 seconds.
And that's something. But anyway, so number 6 says focus on what you can control. Oftentimes we overlook the little things we can do to make life easier while obsessing about the big things we can't do. This reminds me of a little book called Don't Sweat the Small Things. And it's so true. Well, I say this now, moving forward. I start noticing now more than ever. People say it, but it's like everyone is the most important person to the world. So everything you do is has a priority over most things.
Okay.
Generally, people have mature. I mean, I believe people are mature enough to obviously like push that aside. But I feel like your natural DNA is to protect yourself.
Sure.
So who's most important? You.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone's favorite word in the world is their name. So it's this whole thing where it's, going back to when we were, whatever, cavemen, like you had to protect yourself. Your head's on a swivel. You're moving around, blah, blah, blah. So we've matured enough. We've developed more than obviously we care for. You have people who are heroes. You have people who are parents. You have people who are real teachers. And they can set the tone, set the example, and truly do put people before them. Right? But your still natural instinct is, because it's in your DNA, is to protect yourself. So if you can,
Because that's the one thing you can fully control is yourself.
yes. And the thing that like drives me like to the utmost fascination is when you hear survival stories of like concentration camps.
Sure.
Like that stuff fascinates me. And you read these books and they're telling you that no one can control your mind. I didn't allow them to get, because a lot of this stuff is, well, 90% of it's mental. Obviously, your body has to stay alive if you're not eating and you're getting abused, of course, right?
Absolutely.
But a lot of it's mental. Like some dudes in your face grilling you day in and day out, telling you you're nothing, telling you you're worthless, telling you you're meaningless, telling you your family it doesn't mean anything to the world. You were a big mistake, and someone's saying that to you every single day, right? And then running you to the ground, then not feeding you, and then like treating you poorly, not all this stuff.
Yeah.
And you have the mental capacity to tell me that in your mind you're saying they can't control me, that whatever they're saying doesn't faze me. Dude, that's a real G right there. That's like an old school, like, you can't faze me kind of thing. No matter what you're trying to put me through, no matter what control you think you have over me, it's going to be limited. And it obviously was. It's clearly unfortunate, but these people have passed, right, the test of, life.
Yeah. Seriously.
And are survivors. They have survived. Prisoners of war. All these like Nelson Mandela's story. Like these kinds of things fascinate me, because it's like, we get locked up in a house if we're sick or we break a body part, and we talk about cabin fever.
Yeah, exactly.
How funny is that? For 4 days we're in the house. 4 days we're locked in our own house, in the own comfort of our own home, watching TV.
Yeah, exactly.
And we lose our minds. You know what I'm saying? Like, imagine the mental capacity you have to withstand
torture and all these other things.
Like, it's just crazy. But now Number 7, the last one is practice mindfulness. When you obsess about a tomorrow you can't control, you're too busy judging what hasn't happened yet to fully experience what's happening right now. Instead of noticing and appreciating the beauty in the moment, you get trapped in a fear-driven thought cycle about the potential for discomfort down the line. This one is absolutely huge. It's crazy when we do this all the time. I mean, think about kids, right? When it's like May or like the beginning of June, depending on where you are in the U.S.,
Sure.
Schools let out a little bit earlier than others. And you can't wait for the last day. You can't wait for the last day. You know what I'm saying? Like, you kind of rush. Or think about us, as an adult, and you have a vacation coming, and you're just rushing through the week. You just can't get through the week. Oh, man, just can't wait to go. Right, we're talking about earlier, Goose is going down to New Orleans later this week, and we're talking about the ride and driving. You just want to get there. You're just so anxious. You just want to experience. Meanwhile, the journey, like I was saying, the journey is part of the journey is the ride.
Yeah.
Like, making that fun is part of your overall experience. If you go in saying, this is going to be miserable.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Don't go.
Then more than likely it's probably going to be miserable.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because your mind's
Kinda-
already there. You're
kinda-
already in misery.
You kind of speaking
Yeah.
that into existence.
Exactly.
Before it even happens.
I'm not saying like it's not going to be like the potential of it not being having a ball. Yeah, it's all there, but it's still going back to, the mental toughness of these survivors. It's what are you making it though?
Sure.
In your mind, what
Yeah.
are you making it?
Because you're already
It's-
in the negative mindset.
Yeah, but especially if you've never experienced it, how are you giving it a negative mindset?
Sure.
Like, oh, I'm driving to New Orleans, or oh, I'm driving to Florida. I've never driven to Florida, so how would I know? You know what I mean? Or just a thought, like 18 hours. You think of that big number right away. You're like, oh man, what the heck did I get myself into?
Yeah, it's expectations. You had an experience and it stunk. Driving down to the shore for 2 hours, and now that's what you're associating.
Right.
So this is gonna be longer. This is gonna be worse.
Yeah.
Because the other half of all this too is like we're talking about like it can be you get anxious over like the unknown. You can have excitement over that too. Like, oh, I'm doing something I haven't done
Yes.
before.
Right.
So
Well, that's what's fascinating about what you said. How you live your life. You're like, however it comes, I'm going. You know what I mean? Like, what are those people called? But they just kind of like
a free spirit.
yes, a free spirit. Like somebody who's like a free spirit. They just kind of like. There's another word though. There's like
Yeah, I
another
think
term. They just kind of go with whatever. Like they have no plans. They have no nothing. That's good. I think that in itself is like a vacation.
Sure.
But that in my mind also can only be temporary.
Yeah.
Because
No, absolutely.
living like that is a disaster too. It can quickly turn into a disaster.
Sure.
Because without the structure, there has to be some level of structure, or completing a basically simple task will never get done. And I know people like that. I know people who literally live, on a day-to-day basis, however it goes, and not thinking about the future. Well, the future hits you faster than you think. And here you are 10 years later, still doing the same thing, never pursuing any of your goals, not pursuing any of your dreams. And you look around and like, what happened? So is dealing with the unknown also a control issue?
I think it's the root of it for the most part. Is that like we talked, like you can't you don't know what's gonna happen, so it's like that's the one that kind of drives that anxiety or whatever you call it. That like makes you not want to do it. I guess. You can,
But it also goes on, like, depending on how you see it, how you were saying before, it could be exciting.
sure.
I don't know what's gonna happen. Well, let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just jump into it. Like that's my thing. Like once it comes to you hit I hit a point where I just keep thinking about drive. Right before I drive myself crazy, I'm like, screw it. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't care anymore.
Definitely.
Like I literally just drop everything. It's like whatever it is, what it is.
Because you worked yourself up so much.
Yeah,
it's
I'm
kinda
like, all right, yeah, because now
screw
I'm
it.
like, now I'm just over the top with it. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Exactly.
I did care, and I was supposed to, but now I'm just like, whatever, it is what it is. I know, because I know how I prepare myself.
Sure.
I already know I prepared myself to the best of my ability, and more than likely I'm going to be fine. But I'm also okay with laughing at myself. I learned to laugh at myself, and this is only as of recently, which is it was something that I wish I learned a long time ago, because I wouldn't have been as stressed out. Because a lot of times you can't blame yourself, right? We talked about this, like, I can't blame myself for being stuck in traffic for some dude who fell asleep behind the wheel and hit their freaking pole and whatever, and now I'm stuck in traffic, and now here I go. I can't control that. That was something else that's, quote, out of my control, but the only thing I can control is my mind and how I approach this.
Yeah.
Right? That's like, and making things, instead of making things a crisis, have them be inconvenient.
Yeah.
So, for example, like Dave Ramsey talks about this all the time, having like $1,000, like savings account while you're getting out of debt. And he's saying if you have that $1,000, most things, they did studies, like most things that are emergencies that happen in your house or your car or whatever are under $1,000 or within that range. Obviously, there's bigger things that can happen, but just generally speaking, you're kind of taking a gamble on this, but more than likely you're covered, right? So he's saying, so knowing that, are you going to have like a more free spirit towards life? And then when you get that flat tire and you got to get your car towed, there goes roughly $500. That's more an inconvenience and not a crisis.
Sure.
So the inconvenience is that, I got to get my car towed. Now it's going to eat through a little bit of my day. I'll get this fixed, blah, blah, blah. Right? And then you go about your way. It's a crisis when you don't have the $500 and now you're panicking, and then you don't have a backup car, and then you don't have nobody to pick you up. So there's a lot of things. So when it talks about being prepared, I didn't know that was going to happen, but I had prepared money, or I had prepared situations, or you're aware of what's going on. I'm like, oh, I know my neighbor is always home during the day between this time and this time. So if anything were to happen, go to his house, blah, 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 right? So there's some weird, like, you got to work some things out. You're not, of course, going to work everything out. Like, it is what it is kind of thing. Because then now you turned into one of these people who, like, think that everything bad is happening to you in your life. And that everyone's out to get you, and it's just... People just don't think about you that much. As much as you would like.
Because as much as you're worried about everyone's against you, there are probably half people thinking the same thing against themselves.
More than half. Yeah. For sure. All right, so how do you deal with uncertainty? And is fear normal? That's an interesting question.
Well, that kind of goes with what you were saying earlier. It's like if you don't have some kind of like uncertainty, like the nervousness or whatever it is, that you don't have that, then yet like there's something wrong with either, like you said, you're not pushing yourself far enough to have that type of feeling. So it has to be there in some form or another. Right. So it has to be normal in some regard, if that makes sense.
There's a lot with like pushing yourself. Because I'm naturally selfish, and and people get mad when I say that, but it's true. Like, you think about yourself, but that it's a natural thing. Like, it could be the first thought that pops in your head, and you can change it and then act differently. But the person you're protecting most is yourself. I don't care what anybody says. It's literally in our DNA to do that.
Yeah. Fight or flight.
Yeah. So it's like you're not challenging yourself enough. Like, if there's no whatever. So like this one guy I heard on this, I forget what podcast it was. He was saying he realized that going after a financial goal for himself didn't motivate him at all. And he was trying to find out why, because he liked nice stuff and he was making like, a fair amount of money, but to push it, he couldn't figure out why he couldn't push it to the next level. Because in his mind, like, he made enough. You know what I'm saying? So he was getting what he wants.
He already had that contentment in that.
Yeah, it was like a contentment. Yeah. And he was trying to take life to the next level, and he couldn't figure out why. So like, he didn't want a boat, but he had like two really nice cars, a really nice house, and and family life's good. But he knew he had to take it to the next level because he felt himself getting comfortable. And he's like, as soon as I know I get comfortable, that's it. Like, I know I have to, something has to change. I need a challenge. So then he realized, I guess it was like, I don't know, he was at church and they're talking about like Solomon or something. And they're saying like his wealth went for like his grandchildren's children, like it just kept going, something exaggerated. So he realized that he then was wanting to work hard enough so that his kids, that he could put his kids through school. And literally he turned into a beast, like turned into like
a big goal though, too.
Step up to another level.
And that's taking it outside of yourself too.
Yeah. Yes.
That's not
And
something. I want to.
I think that's where most of it. That's where most success comes from. So like you open up, and people always think it's monetary. It's not monetary. It's the passion.
Sure.
So he's making more money, yes, but it's out of passion to provide for his grandchildren's children, right? So it's like, I want to start this company up here out of passion for literally changing lives, and I know what this product can do to change all these lives. The money will come eventually, and it'll flood in, but that's not going to motivate. What's motivating me is like seeing the next smile on that kid, or providing a shelter for someone who's homeless. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's exciting. That's exhilarating. That's living, for me, a fulfilled life.
And then the rewards that comes from that has the ability.
It's gonna come
to impact more people on top of that.
So that excitement, and it's weird, and it's a weird way. Is that selfish? I don't know, but in a weird way, it's super fulfilling. And it's there's something out of it. It's like, everyone knows, you all know, you all held a door for somebody, you all donated money to somebody, right? You all like bought somebody something you know they couldn't afford, and you did it clearly, obviously, out of the kindness of your heart. But there's also that trade-off, and we all know that.
Sure.
That once you do something, how good do you feel?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And sometimes we know you're going to feel that good, and that's the reason why you're doing it. That's what I'm saying. There's a difference. You're doing it for yourself, or you're doing it for your own reward, or you're doing it to actually help this person.
Sure.
There's a huge difference, and that's another conversation. What I'm saying is, that's where passion comes from. If you feel yourself genuinely excited for them and seeing like their change and healing their pain, totally different.
That's like an emotional reward, I guess, that goes with
it.
Whatever you want. I don't know how
for sure. But there's a false chase after that some people have, where you're doing it just because it makes you, it makes you feel better. There's also karma. Dude, I was reading up something with like the Cuban mob or whatever, and they're talking about it's based off, a lot of it's based off of karma, I guess. I don't know. So they know that they're getting their money illegally, so their thing is, every time they see their nieces and nephews, they're giving them $50 because they're thinking it's, that's karma. So in turn, like, they're doing something good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm taking money, but
I'm
I'm also, giving money. You know what I'm saying?
So trying to balance it out.
Yeah, well, that's their belief. They think that they're also making all this money because they're that kind of person.
That's interesting.
And there's weird conversations that can
That's
happen
crazy.
into, when you start talking about karma and the law of attraction. That's like a whole other thing. But they incorporate all that, and everyone should incorporate that to some level. At least you have an understanding of it, right? At least have an understanding of it, I should say. Of however you want to call it, law of attraction, karma, whatever. Because it works. It's life. It is the real deal. You literally get what you put out, man.
Sure.
The product of your life now is the result of what you did in the past. Have you entered into an unknown situation in front of your kids, and you're maybe totally vulnerable, but in some way, maybe it was setting an example? I mean, this can happen to all of us. I definitely did with coaching T-ball. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I just went out there, and I knew I felt that I was going to look like a knucklehead, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm not going to look like a knucklehead. I'm going to prepare myself as best as I can and just go for it. But Kel knew, like, James knew, like, I was telling him, like, I never did this before. They didn't have coaches, and they needed a coach. So I entered into the unknown because I never experienced it in my life. And again, it turned into one of those things, one of the best things I'd done. But I would have, all this negative self-talk. I'm like, dude, you don't know what the heck you're talking about.
Sure.
You don't know what you're doing. You're really going to deal with, like, a bunch of little toddlers? Like, you don't know how, like, you didn't go to class to, teach and control kids like this in this manner or whatever. I'm not saying that's what it takes. That's what the heck's going on in my head because this is the unknown. I don't know. Like, I literally don't know.
But at the same time, they don't know that you don't know. So,
but that's what I'm saying.
thing.
So I had to be confident
So you gotta,
to act like I knew what I was doing in the beginning enough so I could figure it out, and I believed in myself again. I'm like, all right, well, hold on. Played varsity baseball. You should at least put some things together. You know what I'm saying? To some level. I've been playing baseball my whole life. So then you get over like the little basic stuff, and yeah, you stink. Basically, like, you're not good, But like you figure it out, and then if you're a fast learner, you pick it up, boom, boom, boom. You have patterns. I'm all about patterns. I find something that works. I put this and this and that together. That works, boom, boom, boom. And I'm all about streamlining stuff. Like this works. This person's really good at that. Let them do that. I'm not going to kill myself over building a schedule.
Sure.
Because that gets me anxious. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or just communication. You know, it's just basic stuff. Once I had a template out to how I was communicating to the parents of these kids, all I did was copy, paste, take out certain things, change the dates, boom, 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 streamlined it. Boom, the next thing, and it looked beautiful every time. But you got to do that with life, though. Yeah. You got to figure it out. You're going to look or feel like silly. But there's something to, just going through it and trying it. Yeah. And again, I went in laughing at myself.
Right, but that's the thing, though. Is like, so in your head, you've never done it. And his coach's head, like these parents' heads, they're like, he's a coach. He's not going to be a coach if he didn't know what the heck he was doing.
Yeah, like
so they right away, they right away think that you know what you're doing and how you're handling it. And what ended up happening at the end result is they kept calling it the All-Star team.
Yeah.
Or whatever was like the...
Well, no, and it ended up being an awesome season, whatever, and it was very, very, very successful. But you don't. That's the thing. Like you don't know. Like in the back of my mind, it's like I got to that point where you're saying like, I worried about this enough. I also prepared enough.
Yeah.
Forget it. Let's just go. Let's see what happens. Wing it and just laugh at yourself.
Yeah.
Because it's hilarious. Because you're gonna you're gonna mess up. If you could face one fear, what would it be? Is there a situation? What about this? Is there a situation where you entered into the? Is there a situation where the unknown in your mind was way bigger? Like your fear was so built up, and then when you actually walked into the unknown, it was like literally nothing, and you were basically got worked up for no reason.
Yeah, for me it was. So my neighbor, he asked me if I knew anybody that installed car stereos and speakers and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I do that. Open my mouth, and it's like, I've never done that. So I've done like house stereos, just like plug in the speakers to the house stereo.
Wait, hold on. You have to reference. You have to explain when this was.
Oh, I was 13 years old.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So I literally was. I was 13 years old.
So you did house stereos.
I did house stereos, and I just didn't know what I was getting myself into. And then once I started hooking it up and like realizing like playing this, like had like a diagram of the power and how to hook up like the wire, like the power supply, the ground, the negatives and all that stuff. I just went with it. And when I was done, it was easier than I expected it was going to be. For some reason, like I understood it, but never done it before. Like that was the first time. So I guess like the outcome was it was actually easier. Like you said, like once it was done, it wasn't that bad as how you stressed it out to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and the same thing, I think the same thing happens like when you get like a new job or in a new position or something. Sometimes it is bad, but most of the time, well, I guess with like your first job maybe, I don't know. I guess everyone does have different experiences. But for me, my experience was like my first jobs, I'm like, you get all worked up, and yeah, there is like a beginning period where it's crazy because you got to learn all this new stuff and you're, changing things up. But then after a while, you find your groove, you find like your pace, you get that understanding of what the job entails, and then you're like, wow, I was really like crazy worked up over this. Or with anything new too. Like everyone went through this with like talking to, someone you were interested in.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean? Everyone has like that crazy anxious, like, oh man, she ain't gonna be digging me, man. What am I doing? Like you have all this like stuff. It's true though. Like you have all like this fear. You're scared. Like all this like things. And for the most part, it's not as bad as we make it out in our heads. It's funny. That kind of stuff's like innocent though too. But that still goes back onto the what ifs. Like you definitely don't want to like a good like tool to use to fight the fear is the what ifs. Like what if you never find out?
Sure.
Or what if that you never did it and now you're literally going to the grave with it. Yeah. I'm not saying a relationship, but like anything, starting a new business or whatever. I don't know. It's fear is an interesting thing. Obviously, the unknown is an interesting thing because, again, us being humans, we're literally built to protect. And if you don't know what you're protecting yourself from,
Sure.
That's crazy. Like when you just say it like that. That's nuts. Like, I gotta protect myself. I don't know what.
I don't know what's
It just sounds like you're an idiot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it sounds so dumb, but we do it. You know what I'm saying? It's this weird thing of preparation though, because you're the same dude who can get clowned. Like you walked into that without preparation. Like you're a moron. You went into the GMATs and studied to try to get into a school, and you never even opened up like a review book or anything. You didn't even know what was on the test or the format of the test. You know what I'm saying? Like I'd be scared, but I did the same thing. I know I studied. I know what to expect to some level, but you're scared because you don't know what the result is going to be. That's the unknown. So there's an unknown, but there's a known. I don't know. It's weird. So you know kind of what you're doing, but you don't know what the result's going to be. All right, so there you have it, folks. The unknown. We'll wrap the episode up with 2 quotes. The first one is by Aldous Huxley. There are things known and there are things unknown, and in between are the doors of perception. And the last one is by Tom Hanks. A hero is somebody who voluntarily walks into the unknown. All right, there you have it, folks. The unknown. In this episode, the crew talks about their experiences in dealing with the unknown. We cover topics that range from the overall confidence needed, uncertainty, stress, planning, and much more. We wrap the episode up with quotes from Aldous Huxley and Tom Hanks. Awesome. Guys, thanks again for joining us. The Rotated Views podcast was produced for self-development purposes. Huge shout out to our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Blessed Lifestyle brand. That is BL3SSED.com. Also sponsored by The Motivation Files Unleashed. This motivational mixtape will be your fuel for success. Available on all platforms. Guys, don't forget to visit the website, JimmyLeeVelez.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Rotated Views. If you have any inquiries or questions, email us at info@JimmyLeeVelez.com. On behalf of myself and the rest of the crew, we wish you massive success. Stay blessed.